Hello, welcome to Tech Talk Thursday. What's been happening in tech this week? Well, quite a lot, and we're going to be talking to you about it in a moment. But as ever, here's my co-host, Martin McKenna. Welcome to the show. How's it going, Martin?
It's good. Looking forward to hearing mainly what you are going to update everybody on, because I've been busy reading stuff as well. But today's all about you talking to people, and because we talk AI as well as streaming, there's 1,000 million updates every single week, so it's kind of difficult to keep up. But we'll try.
We'll definitely try this. There are too many apps to keep up, and every time I look at YouTube, there's a new video about a new update for a new AI tool that's come up. So I think you've just got to sometimes pick an AI tool and just run with it for a while and see what updates are coming along. Anyway, we are live pretty much everywhere. So if you're joining us, please say hello in the comments, and let's start with Elgato. So I already did a video on this on my channel briefly. Elgato like to update their Stream Deck software every so often. And today, or a couple of days ago, they introduced something interesting called Virtual Stream Decks. So I'll talk you through this for giggles. But anyway, so here's the Stream Deck application. This is what I'm using right now. And the first thing to note is that you need to update the Stream Deck software to the beta version. So the beta version I'm running at the moment is, let's have a look, it is version 7.0, as you can see here. And you can go and get that from the Elgato website, and I'll bring that up in a second. So what they've introduced is the concept of a virtual Stream Deck. Now, you've already got a Stream Deck for mobile that a lot of people use, and that's a paid for app where you can download it and use your iPad or your phone as a Stream Deck. What they've introduced now is these virtual Stream Decks, which are Stream Decks that have the ability to sit on your desktop and you can action them using your mouse. So they're just different versions of the Stream Deck pads that you can have on any monitor. And there's a few little things to be aware of though. First off, which I didn't realize, is that you do need to have a physical Stream Deck and have paid for one in order to get access to the virtual Stream Decks. So instead of you paying for a license for this virtual Stream Deck, they're including it with every Stream Deck that you buy from now on. So if you've got a physical Stream Deck, you're good to go. You will get access to the virtual Stream Deck. So that's something I didn't realize. And you can get to them by going on to the Stream Deck software here, and you'll see that we've got two options. One is the mobile device, which you would typically use for the mobile side of things. And this one is a virtual device. So click on this, and it pops up on your default monitor, and that is mine over here. So you get this virtual Stream Deck keypad. So let's go into the config and take a look. So you've got a few options. You can change the layout so you can have as many buttons as you want. So you can make this Stream Deck as small or as large as you want, and you can have multiple Stream Decks. So one of the things that's really interesting is that you can move it around to any monitor. So I've already got this monitor shared at the moment, but you can move it around, stick it on any monitor and have multiple ones as well. And they actually, on Elgato's website, had a couple of interesting use cases. You can have like this as virtual clocks. So if you're working with people in different time zones, and it's a great way of displaying clocks on there and various things. You can do everything with the virtual Stream Deck that you can do with a physical Stream Deck. So multi-actions, different switches, calling out actions to pull in YouTube comments, everything. So there's a few things you can configure with it. One of the things that's a quirk I'll let you know about now that I spoke to Elgato today, and they said, oh yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. And I said, well, what is the point of that? I'll explain what I'm talking about in a second. So first off, you can change the key size. So for people with glasses, like me, you can make it as big or as small as you want. Now I've typically used a Stream Deck with an old iPad, but this is going to remove that option because now I've got the ability to use it on my desktop. You can change the opacity. So for the designers out here, I'm looking at you, Martin, you can change the opacity and you can make it any color you want based on your branding. And if you're colorblind, then that's probably not a good option. But I'm just going to make it a nice pink color for now because it stands out against this black background. You're probably throwing daggers at me across the airwaves saying that is not a good color that goes with this, Neil, but it doesn't really matter. You can change the opacity of it. So when it's sort of on top of another application, you can still see what's behind it. So it's pretty cool. One of the things that's a bit of a quirk is that you can do this auto hide feature. So let's first of all grab a key. Now, don't do what I do and grab the the action and try and drag it into the Stream Deck, because that ain't going to work. You're going to have to put it into the actual Stream Deck application, and then the button just sits there. Now, notice what happens. You've got this feature whereby you can hide all the unused Stream Deck keys. So if you're a minimalist and you want to reduce clutter on your desktop, then that's one of the options you can enable. I don't like that particularly, so I'm going to change this option here where it says hide empty keys. I'm going to make it full size for now. You can show and hide it as well by clicking on this little I button here. But one of the quirks, and I'm not sure if they're going to include this, is auto hide when the cursor leaves the panel. Now, that's fine. So you enable this, and if I'm clicking around with this cursor, as soon as I move this cursor out of the way, the Stream Deck has disappeared. And I thought, oh, that's great. I click it again, and it'll show up. No, where has it gone? Where is it in my desktop? It's not there. So they said, yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to either go back into your Stream Deck application and unhide it, or add a new function button to a physical Stream Deck, which is a toggle to show and hide the virtual Stream Deck. And I thought, wouldn't it be better if you do the auto hide feature to be able to either come down to your dock or your sort of system tray and then just click on it there? Apparently not. So let me show you where that other action is. So if I go to a Stream Deck where I don't have anything, let's go to the Neo. I've got a spare button here down at the bottom. Let's go and find this new action. So in the Stream Deck, you'll see here they've got this VSD toggle, and they're calling the Stream Deck a virtual Stream Deck VSD, which not to be confused with VST, which is the virtual standard instruments, which gets confusing. So all they've got here is this toggle. So when I'm on my physical Stream Deck now, I can show and hide the virtual Stream Deck. I thought it would have been better if they'd actually made it so you can show and hide the virtual Stream Deck with a click of a button. I think it's a bit of a quirk. I don't know what you think, Martin. From a design perspective, I think I would have rather have had it to be able to click. Yeah,
well, I think that's just a bit confusing, isn't it?
Well, it confused me.
Sort of thing, it'll disappear, and then you spend a week looking for it, and then never use it again because that bloody thing disappears. It doesn't reappear again. I'm not using that again.
I couldn't find it.
I mean, I've got 3 Stream Decks: foot deck pedal, a 6-button one for travelling, and an XL Stream Deck. So I'm trying to think it to myself, why do I want another Stream Deck on my screen? Because part of the reason for having the Stream Deck separately is, one, I can reach it quite easily and just tap a button when nobody can see, whereas moving a mouse about on the screen, inevitably, I'm going to have multiple screens, so I'm probably going to be going, looking down there, to try and find a Stream Deck. So that would be one reason why a physical one would sound better to me. And the second reason I like the Stream Deck is it frees up space on my screen estate.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that I want to bring extra buttons on my screen estate. Unless I didn't have a Stream Deck, in which case it would be brilliant. I mean, if I didn't have a physical Stream Deck, then that would be a really useful tool to be able to have a grid of buttons, and I press button 1 and it does something, and button 2. So actually, I think that sounds like a great idea, but I don't understand why it is linked to the physical Stream Deck as well.
I think it's a pricing thing from what they said. I think they said that they don't want people to pay for the virtual Stream Deck, and therefore they're bundling it with the physical one. But to me, I think it would be nicer if they made it a paid for option. I would gladly, like you, if I didn't have a Stream Deck, I would gladly pay for this virtual Stream Deck as a separate application that I could utilize, get familiar with Stream Deck, and that'll probably prompt me to go and buy a physical one to add to the workflow. But yeah, that is a good point.
I mean, I think I would happily have paid for one of those to learn. I think we're both in agreement. Stream Deck's a great piece of kit.
Absolutely.
Don't want to be without the Stream Deck. and it can be used for all sorts of things beyond perhaps what I tend to use it for, which is mainly Ecamm. Someone like Alec Johnson runs his life with a Stream Deck. He's got all sorts of things programmed in there to press a button and apps open up, and it resets all the screens and moves things around with various different packages, and resizes windows and all sorts. It's just got millions of it, and multi-layers on the physical Stream Deck as well. So I'd be interested to hear Alec's take on it, whether he thinks he needs another Stream Deck on the screen. But as a stepping stone to a physical Stream Deck, I think yes, definitely. As an add-on to a physical Stream Deck, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm getting it.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of some of the informational stuff you can pop on there. So there's lots you can have real-time clocks.
Tell us a bit more about the time clocks and things like that, because maybe that's something that's interesting. And I'm just thinking in my head about screen sharing as well. Obviously we're using Ecamm, and that's you sharing the application there for Stream Deck.
Yeah.
And so is that you just doing a screen grab off a single monitor? Yes, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, and of course it's moved away again. So I'm doing. Let me just turn that off because it's super annoying. Let me just unclick that. Yeah. So all I'm doing is I'm just sharing I've got one monitor which is to the right of me here, and I'm actually just using that right now as my entire screen share. So I'm sharing an entire desktop. So whatever you see in this desktop, I'm sharing, and I've just got this on here. But I could move it over to another. You can move them around. You can have multiple ones. And you just keep adding them. You just say add another virtual device. It pops here. So you can have two. I think I would use them in some respects whereby for informational stuff, you have to go to Elgato's website and download like the clocks and things that are there. I just get rid of the colors. But in terms of informational stuff, yeah, I mean, I think I would use it in some respects. I think if I've got a presentation and it's down here, you can't see it now, but I've got another monitor right in front of me. So instead of maybe utilizing the pedal, I could use it in this way. But I think if people have a Stream Deck and they just want an extra couple of buttons, this is probably an easy way of just, instead of buying a physical Stream Deck, I'll just go and download this and I can just have an extra couple of buttons. Maybe I want to bring up a comment, or if I'm in the middle of a gameplay, I can, turn on some lights or do some actions and things like that. So I think it's got its use cases, but it's quite interesting that they're not selling it as a separate app. I honestly think they're missing a trick, because you're buying the bundle for the mobile app. Why don't you just charge people for this? I mean, I think people would happily pay for that, unless they don't want to cannibalize their physical hardware sales. But they brought out some new hardware as well. I don't know whether you heard about that from Alec. Mentioned it on a show he did the other day.
I don't think so. But before you get onto the additional hardware, geeky question here. Mm-hmm. In Ecamm, does each one of those grids come up as a option for a screen share overlay?
Oh, so you could actually screen share the. Let me have a look. That's an interesting question. People are joining us today in the comments. Just tell us if you think this is a good idea. Are you going to play with it? Let us know. Let me just add another screen share.
And have you got a Stream Deck, people in the comments?
Yeah, and if you've not, why not? Let me just make sure I'm not going to share anything I don't want people to share. See, that's fine. It's empty. So screen share, show. Stream Deck. Oh yeah, you can. Let me just. I don't know which one it is because they're all called Stream Deck, but I'm just going to go.
Okay.
Take a stab at that. There you go.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
So I can share.
Well,
I've just.
I could see. If that was for instance, I'm going to be a geeky again, but clocks are actually really difficult to display. So you can share time clocks, and the problem is they keep moving about. So if you want to share a clock from Paris and one from London and one from Rome, then there is a problem, because they tend to come up in some massive screen share, and if that moves around a little bit, then suddenly you're looking at the wrong clocks or something like that. So I could see that being quite an interesting share option. And also what might be quite fun at some point would be almost to have Stream Deck buttons on there as a host,
Yeah.
and let people see you pressing the buttons to say, hey, I'm going to bring on Johnny now. And I don't know whether does it bring up a little Johnny's face or something on the actual
It should
key
be the
in the same
same.
way as
Yeah.
it does for a physical one?
Let me try that. Let me just go
That
back
would
to...
be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you've got 12 guests on and you
Yeah.
can see them all in
You
miniature,
got the
and
little
you press
faces.
the button and they come on. It's very similar to what I mock up effectively using Ecamm overlays, but that would do it all in a single overlay, which would be really cool, actually.
Let me bring in a where's it gone? Run scene, and I'm going to change the scene to you. Yeah, and there's your little face.
Perfect.
So that does
so if
work.
we had sort of
Go ahead.
half a dozen of those in, I mean, you'd have to play about with the formatting a bit,
Yeah.
but I can see a situation where there's half a dozen of those on, and as a presenter, you're sitting there with them all showing and saying, hey, let's bring on
Yes.
Martin.
Exactly. Yeah. It's pretty good. And I like the way that it sort of reshapes based on the multiple Martins now. There's too many Martins on the screen. Let me just hide that screen share for a sec. So I like the way that it changes that, and you can it's just like anything else. You can resize the text to make it look a bit better, and that's on a per button basis, or you can do globally. Let's just bring in those clocks real quick. I'll just remove a couple of Martins. Let's have Martin down at the bottom here, and then we'll just bring in some clocks. Got system, where is it? Let me just find it. Analog clock.
This is my backwards thinking again, you see, that, oh, right, I think this could be quite a good way of layering things into Ecamm.
I need the world clock timer. Let me go back and just find it. But you get the impression. I think the clock's okay, though. It's let me just go back to the screen share and get rid of... Can you get rid of this? I don't want the title. Why does it show you that? I would think if it was a digital clock, it wouldn't show the title. Maybe that's another bug. Oh, show title. Let's get rid of it. There you go. So that's quite nice. You can have a little transparent clock. It's pretty cool. And that's at maximum size right now. So, but it doesn't give you a different time zone as far as I'm aware. Let's see. No.
I take it you can't change the borders or anything like that on the border width?
No. You can just make it transparent and that's it. I don't think so. No, you don't have any sort of color options.
That's okay though. You just, I mean, you could put that against a grey background anyway.
Yeah.
And then the buttons would look
if it was like
perfectly acceptable.
Yeah. I mean, it's not terrible. So I think there's a few use cases for it as we're finding out. But any of the actions that you can do that we know and love, the multi-actions, I use it for switching profiles, turning on my lights, camera things on, and it might be useful as well. So, for example, with OBSBot cameras, where you've got the respective PTZ controls, if you don't have Ecamm, for example, and the OBSBot center is a bit of a pain sometimes to keep having, that might be another use case where you can create a new one here. Let's just do the OBSBot thing, see how this works real quick. So I think it's this one. I can never remember. Oh, I have to open OBSBot Center. No, it's just been updated, so I can't do that. We're going to talk about the OBSBot updates in a minute. It won't work because I haven't updated the plugin. But I think that would be a use case. So you've got all the PTZ controls for your OBSBot camera, and that might be handy to have as well. So I think there's a few use cases for this. I'm not saying everybody needs it, but I think the more you play with it, I'm sure you would find some use cases for it, Martin. So if people want to know how to get to the beta, let me just show you. I've got to get rid of this. I've got virtual Stream Decks all over my platform now. Okay, so if you want to go and get the Elgato software, then you just go to this link here, which I'll paste in the chat later. And it's on my channel anyway. Just get early access, download it. It will download a new version of the Elgato Stream Deck software, version 7. It'll include all this. They've got some cool information on here about what you can do. So, you know, in this particular case, turning on your lights and stuff like that. So it might be useful because more often than not, I'm reaching for the Stream Deck. Maybe it'd be easy just to click a mouse button, but obviously they're aiming at all kinds of use cases, gaming and things like that. So there's a few nice use cases, and I like the idea where it's quite dark as well. So depending on the graphics that you have, and as you know with Elgato, you've got the ability to download different icon packs. So you can really sort of switch it up, make it blend in with your desktop, and it doesn't have to be like anything too crazy. So that's the Elgato Stream Deck software. So will you be participating? Are you going to have a play with it, Martin?
I think that might be also quite a nice thing to have in a presentation as well, to show people you're going through a deck, or have a mini picture of the next slide on each button. I don't know how well that'll work, but yeah, I think there's potential there for creative uses beyond probably that's just me back to front engineering. Oh, what could I do with it that they haven't thought of doing? But yeah, I think
some good options.
I'll have a play. I'll put it on the list of things
things to play with,
which when I get a moment I'll go and have a play with.
Yes, right. Let's talk about the next thing on the list, which you just very briefly touch on that. With the advent of AI changing every week, as we've mentioned, the one that caught my eye this week was the new Google Veo 3, which is part of Google Labs, and it's not available in my country. I'm not sure if it's available in your country, but if you go to Google Labs and start to look at the playground, you can't get access to it in terms of playing with this software. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about, let's just go back to share screen.
Available in the US, I think.
I think it's only in the US at the moment, yeah. So it's called it's called Flow, which is this AI-powered filmmaking. So with traditional video prompts with AI, you typically will get a 5-second to 10-second or 8-second video that's created. Not terribly good in some respects, but some of the products like Kling and Runway ML do a really good job at text to video prompting. Now what Google have decided to do is take it a little bit further by adding more realistic character building in it, and then also they've included sound. So now they've included dialogue, so you can actually prompt the AI to create voiceovers, podcast interviews and things like that. So I'll just play a little bit about it's only a minute, their actual video, but it's quite interesting to listen to.
I don't know if I'm on the right path, but I'm trying to find it. I'm questioning, searching, and then something shifts, and I'm not trying anymore, I'm just doing. And all of the pieces start falling into place.
It all feels pretty clear in my head. I see these like flashes of possibilities, almost like I'm traveling through dimensions.
I'm looking down at myself and my characters in these different worlds, and it's almost coming to life on their own, even though I know I'm in control of that narrative. It feels like it's almost building upon itself at some point. You know, you could have an infinite amount of endings to your story.
So the work isn't built brick by brick by brick. It blooms like a spontaneous garden. It grows naturally, fully vibrant and complete.
I'm not forcing it, I'm just finding it. And that's when I know I'm in the right place.
Well, it's pretty impressive from what it can do, and obviously it's the latest iteration of this. And there was a couple of X threads on X that showed exactly some of the dialogue. I'll try and find that before the end of the show. But what's interesting is that it's not available everywhere yet, and you need to be a premium user to do this. And I think the starting price is $250 a month just to get access to this and play with it. But obviously the price will probably come down a lot as and when more people start to use it. But I don't know whether you've seen that before, but what's your thought on that?
I haven't actually seen that. I have played about at fair length with Adobe Firefly,
Right.
which will give you up to 5 seconds of animation from a prompt, and you can also drop in references for pictures to start and finish your prompt off.
Right.
And my experience is I've now turned it off because I spent too much time pressing generate after changing the prompt, generate, and then not happy with the results. It was interesting, but nothing like what you've just shown me there.
It's crazy, right?
That, which is slightly crazy in that I can imagine me sitting there for hours and hours and hours prompting stuff, and because if it's only 10 seconds at a time, then you're going to want to go back and again and again and again. And I could imagine in just the way of the world at the moment, as soon as people want to start generating image, the processing power required centrally for that is huge. So ChatGPT, if you're on a free plan at the moment, forget it. If you want to generate an image, you can wait overnight for it to generate an image, and it still might not generate it.
Yes.
Because everybody's and their man and their dog's creating images of themselves with bobbleheads or whatever, and that's what's happening.
Yes. Bobbleheads.
90% of these people are just using it for entertainment.
Yeah.
But that looks incredibly impressive. So I would just be interested to see what comes out of that. But
Let me show you another couple of
thank God
examples
it's
that
not
I've
available.
saved on the Twitter thread. I know it is a bit crazy if this works. So let me just show you this. This is they're only very, very short clips, 6 or 7 seconds.
Excuse me, ma'am. What's the best decision you made this year?
Definitely following Venture Twins on Twitter.
Excuse me, ma'am.
So that's generated by AI. Here's another one that came up, which is what I love. It's a cat.
Bagpuss.
Bagpuss is that's another 80s reference that nobody will get on this call. Well, there you go.
No.
All right, stop. And then there was the rat chef. It's so funny. And there's one last one, I think. ASMR typing.
Hi, and welcome to the channel.
Now I know what to do with my clicky keyboard. And finally, there's one more. There's this podcast interview here.
We're finally here. Anyone can make a podcast now.
I just don't know what to talk about. So
we're finally here. Anyone can make a podcast.
It's crazy, right? So, I mean, not perfect, but I was looking at that this morning. I normally do a little bit of reading, looking what's going on in the world. And then I came across this. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good, but it's only a short interview. What's going on? And then I realized, oh, it's all AI. Mind blown.
7 seconds.
I know.
We're okay for a week or two.
We're okay for a week or two.
It's a bit better.
And then they'll just replace us with people who know what they're talking about, which is cool. So, all right, let's move on then. So that was that update. Wow, it's 5:30 already. Time is flying by. Let's talk a little bit about, well, real quick. I don't even have to show anything because I haven't got anything to show. So NotebookLM, if you know what that is, it's a really good tool for basically doing research. You can feed it lots of YouTube videos, websites, PDF documents, text files, whatever you want, and then ask it questions on that. Anything from FAQs to outlines for study guides and things like that. And then this is the one that also obviously creates the AI-based podcast where you've got a conversation going on based on the data that you feed it. And it's a really good AI conversation. A lot of people are actually using it as their podcast instead of having to record it yourself. So what they've done recently is just, I say all they've done, but they've just added it now to the phone. So you can actually be on the go and add all your resources, images and things like that, and then start using that to create your documents and so on. I don't think they have the podcast feature in there. I haven't tried that yet, but that would be really cool. But they've also introduced on the same platform this week, NotebookLM video instructions. So let's say you take, and they showed a really good example whereby if you're trying to teach children or students around the world around for a topic of geography, let's just say, something like that. You can feed it all this information. And say you wanted to talk about geography or geology or something like that, you would feed it this information and then hit the video button. And what it's going to do is it's going to do an audio version of all the thing that it wants to teach you. But then it's going to start drawing, animating, and creating slides based on that information. So the example that I saw was it drew like schematic diagrams, it drew like pointers, workflow sheets, anything that you would see in a presentation where you're animating these boxes coming in and saying next step, next step, next step. It did all that automatically based on the fact that you just fed this stuff to it, and then it did a voiceover. So it was a really engaging, interesting way on how to present. So it might help people who are having difficulty with presentations in the future. I was just thinking, like, give it some information, and then it could be used as a learning tool on how to present well, because if it's engaging and AI's created it, then why can't you learn from that and be more engaging with your own presentations? Again, some crazy stuff out there. So that sounds really interesting. If you get a chance to look it up, just look at NotebookLM and the updates that they've done recently, because that might be interesting to you, Martin, because obviously in terms of presentations and how you present things, might give you some, not that you need pointers, but you know.
Well, there's a lot of things that, like Gamma is out there. Love Gamma for creating presentations and things, but where it falls down is if I did want a specific graphic, then I can't get the specific graphic in there, a sort of infographic. It's got quite a large selection of ones that it uses, but it's really interesting to see how quickly, once you've created a few presentations, you think, oh, is that the only infographic that I've got? When there's probably 20 or 30 different ones, but actually only one or two are appropriate. And what you really want is something completely different. If you could link NotebookLM into it, or even better still have animated versions of infographics, then that would be great. And I thoroughly suspect that's coming. Just the way of the world and everything beginning to merge together. I mean, we've seen a load of updates as well from Zoom this week, and I was looking at a Zoom meetings update where Zoom events, sorry, get the right term, update, where at the end of your event you can press a couple of buttons and AI will go and extract from the content all of the salient points and give you options for 2, 3, 4, 5 different posts that you may want to use as follow-ups from the event, and potentially allows you to clip in pictures from the event or stock images or AI generated images, that type of thing as well, and then it will schedule the posts for you. So it very much is heading towards a all-in-one package including AI to summarize everything, which we know AI is very good at summarizing stuff, but summarizing, highlighting, turning into posts, firing it all out for you sounds like a great idea. So if we can do the same for presentations, where it's also bringing in infographics, whether they're prompt based or otherwise, I can see, I bet in a year's time we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I think, maybe not even a year, by the rate that things are going and the things are changing at the moment, definitely. There's 10 people watching the show. Nobody said hello yet, so if you're shy, that's fine. But if you want to say hello, or let us know about what you've been playing with recently, how AI is in your life, let us know.
Or the comments might be broken for some reason.
They could be, actually. That's a good point. I'd have to check that out. That's difficult to do when you're live. Let me just quickly have a look on the Restream side of things. Is there anybody out there? Let me have a look. I'm just going to send myself a comment. Hello. Okay, that came through. That's fine. All right. It's just that everybody's shy. It's fine. Not to worry.
Nobody's
anyway,
talking to us.
Nobody's talking to us. Let's go to the next topic, which, and I have to find it first. It's disappeared again. Where did it go? There it is. Okay. My favorite tool sometimes, and it's my most hated tool sometimes, Descript. So Descript And that's a really terrible still frame to go on there. So, let's just move that. That's not even better. So Descript has had quite a number of updates recently. You've seen Descript a number of times, and Chris from Dealcasters is fabulous at this. So I'm not going to do anything radical, but I just wanted to show you what's happened to the timeline. So there's a couple of things that they've added recently. The AI Underlord, as they call it, has got a bit of a facelift, and they've added a few new features. Now, it's not been rolled out to everybody yet. You've got to be in the beta plan, and I've already asked to be in the beta plan, but it's not here. But what Descript will start doing now is you'll be able to use natural language to edit your workflow. So instead of having to go in and go into all these various layers and change scenes and add filler words, move filler words, shorten gaps, do all the editing, by prompting Descript, it's going to then allow you to basically make all those changes. So people that don't really understand a non-linear editor, or they don't want to sort of play around in the timeline, then that's going to give people the opportunity to just tell them what they want. I want you to cut this intro. I want you to put some B-roll. I want you to add these transitions. I want you to shorten the length of it. I want you to create a vertical version of this. You can just tell it what you want to do, and it's supposed to do it. Now, some of the demos I've seen online, 90% of the time, it pretty much does an amazing job. So I'm really keen to get hold of the beta version when they roll it out to various other people to test how it's going to work. And this is going to make editing for people much easier, because I know there's a barrier to entry when, I get questions a lot around, well, if I'm going to use Ecamm or Meld or other software and I'm recording things, then I'm not very good at editing. What can I do? So I think something like Descript, where you're able to just tell it what you want in your own language and it does it for you pretty much all the time, I think that's going to be a good thing. I'm not sure what your thoughts on that first point of Descript, Martin. I mean, I know you don't use Descript, but...
No. So for all of the people out there, and there's polar positions on this, really. I'm with Alec from Take One Tech. Take One Tech, the name comes from him doing everything in one take, although the reality is he doesn't always do everything in one take. It might be 2 or 3 different takes, and then he chooses the best one if he makes a mess of it. But generally, he came to the conclusion that the barrier for him was doing all of the post-recording work. So instead of doing that, he said, well, I'm just doing it in one take, and the mistakes will humanize me and my audience won't really care. And that's where I am, really. I will potentially, if I make a right hash of something and I'm just doing a recording, then I will just press delete and re-record it, providing it's not an hour long or something ridiculous. But certainly I went to use Descript maybe a year or 2 ago, and played about for a few days, and then thought, no, I won't swear, but I
can't be bothered.
I can't be bothered, we'll say. We can't be bothered with that.
Right.
So I thought it's much quicker for me to just say, no, re-record, spend 10 minutes doing it again. Yeah, that'll do. Sorry if I messed up a little bit. Continue. And people look out for those bloopers as well, and they quite like it. So if that's part of your character, that's okay. However, if you can use real language searching and changing and stuff, and it works well, then that becomes a totally different tool from my perspective.
I think what's interesting you say though is I'm in the camp of, obviously, if I can do it in one take, I will, but most of the things that I create have a lot of different screenshots in there. I'm bringing in some animations and stuff. Now, you could do all that. You could do that live effectively, because what Alec and yourself are doing effectively is creating a live to tape, right? So you're doing a live show, but you're just recording it and you're not actually going live to the interwebs. But that does require a lot of upfront planning as well. So I find that as a bit of a chicken and egg. If I had to do that up front, it would probably take me just as long to get the run of show set up with all the animations and the various screenshots and all that kind of stuff done than it would be doing it as I would normally do it, then edit it later. So I guess it's whatever makes your life easier with regards to the workflow, and it just depends on how complicated you want your final edit to be, or you want it to be simple. And I'm all for leaving bloopers in and things like that where you can, because it does humanize you, and we all make mistakes. And I like the videos that people do sometimes whereby they have the blooper reel at the end, so it actually shows how many takes they've had to do. And nobody's perfect when it comes to doing video, and I sometimes get into a rut where I'm retaking various things. I don't like that intro or whatever, and I'm just thinking, just finish it and then just get on with it, because you're spending more time iterating over things. But if I was to do it live to tape, then it's like a one shot, or I have to do it all again and that's another shot. So yeah, I'm interested. And it depends how natural you are as well. A lot of people aren't very comfortable. So like Descript, if I go back to it, obviously has a lot of bells and whistles in it. As we spoke about before, like these filler words. So if you do ums and ahs and pauses and all kinds of stuff, you can just remove those. But when you remove them, you get awkward jump cuts, and a jump cut is a cut. And yeah, exactly what Martin's doing there. And it just looks unnatural. And there's a time and a place for a jump cut, especially in certain movie practices and things like that when you're filming. But it does look a bit unnatural, and I don't like those. So you can tell Descript to put a transition in for the jump cuts. But if you're not very natural on camera, you'll end up with transitions everywhere, and it becomes a complete mess. So maybe that's not the best thing. But what I wanted to show you real quick is in Descript, they've updated the timeline. Now, if you're coming from a traditional editing software like Premiere, Final Cut, DaVinci Resolve, the previous one showed you this weird looking audio waveform and some blocks of text at the bottom, and it wasn't very natural for me anyway to see. If I want to go into the timeline, I actually want to see what's going on. So when you bring the timeline up, you now get the option to actually have an actual visual timeline representation. If you want to move things around with the text, you can just click and drag that, cut out filler words, you can add spaces, gaps, reduce the gaps, and so on. And then every time you add a layer, traditionally when you add a layer in Descript, it actually just pops it somewhere, and you can actually see that represented visually, and you have to go in. So I'll show you. If I just add captions to this, which is one of the interesting features of Descript, you just add captions, it's going to transcribe, which is already done. Now it's add captions, Elgato, I like the way it's spelled that. So now you can see the captions are here in an actual layer. And if this was behind me, for example, then it would have been moved down. So there's lots of things that you can do with this. If you don't see this, they've just added it yesterday. If you don't see it in your Descript setup, just go to the little, I can't remember what this is called. People call it a hamburger. I don't know what that symbol's called. Go into settings, and down here at the bottom, you'll see new timeline. I just toggled mine on and off. As you can see, if you toggle it on and off, that's the, it looks like the old timeline, but yeah, that's Descript for you. It's a little bit quirky. So turning it on and off and toggle it, you'll get this, and now it refreshes, you get this new timeline back. And I think it's a better way of doing it. You can also, when you do the split, for example, when you are editing the blade tool, you can now see in between there that you can drag and pinch and zoom, as it were, the edit, and you can also put transitions in and all kinds of stuff. So it's an easier workflow if you're coming from a traditional editor. So now you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the non-linear editing workflow, you've got the text-based workflow, you've got the standard workflow. And where before you saw in Descript where you had the scenes, a scene in Descript used to be denoted by a /. So you put a / in there, and that would actually splice the scene for you, or the actual video for you, and it was just a / that you would see. But now they've actually created a little thumbnail of the actual video edit in each of the scenes. So where the scene barrier is, you actually see that now visually represented, which I think is a nice touch, because then you can quickly see, especially if you've got B-roll and other things in Descript, you can actually see where that actual point is, where the edit is. So I think they've made some nice changes to it. I hope it just gets better in terms of performance, because every time Descript seems to add something to it, the performance drops a little bit. So I'm not sure whether that's going to be the case. I haven't got anything to edit in anger at the moment in Descript, but you'll probably see me on X screaming about Descript at some point if it doesn't work. All right, I need a little bit of water. I've been doing all the talking here. I know how you feel now.
Obsbots. Obsbot updates is next on our list. So we have got these little cameras all over our place, actually. I've got, in fact, 3 in total. One I've just lent out to our intern, Sam. In fact, 2 I've lent out to Sam. And then I've still got the third Osbot Tiny 2, which is not currently mounted because we'll come back to it a bit later, but I've got a studio build to do next week. But these cameras, for no money, size of a matchbox, incredible. So I don't know what the updates are.
Neither do I.
Updates, Neil?
I just saw the email today. So we've got I've got one here, which is the Tail Air, which is just showing the overhead, which I think is a nice shot. It's a different shot. You can see how hot I am at the moment. It's quite hot here in sunny Portugal. Let me just share my screen.
Might be hot next week.
We've got somebody here. Hello,
Spoiler
Football
alert.
Fever. Hi indeed. Thanks for joining us. So let's go quickly to Obsbot. So this is the May update. They've added a few things. I'll just go through them. I can't show you them because I've not updated anything yet, but this is a recent update. So it looks like they've updated everything pretty much. The Tail 2, the Tail Air, the Tiny 2 Lite. Now you've got the Tiny 2 Lite or the Tiny 2, or you've got both?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
All right. And they've got the Tail.
So the story there
2.
was
yeah, go ahead.
I went and I bought the Tiny 2, and then a day later, I think Katie from Ecamm emailed me and said, "Do you know you've won a Tiny 2 Lite?" No. Okay.
Do you know?
Damn, I've just bought another one. So suddenly I got 2.
You ended up with 2.
Then,
that's fair
then I
enough.
was given a special offer on Amazon for a £10 off a Meet, which is the one that we recommend for using with LinkedIn Live, and I thought, £67. I can't not buy this.
It's crazy.
Ridiculously cheap.
Not for a camera of that quality. I should have had mine set up here to show everybody, but yeah, I use Obsbots all the time. I've got pretty much all the cameras apart from the Tiny 2 Lite. I didn't see the point of getting a Tiny 2 Lite when I've already got a Tiny 2, but I'd be interested to see what yours looks like when we talk about what we're doing next week. So they've also updated the Obsbot Center. So I'm going to go through this really quick because we're getting close to time. We've only got 10 or 15 minutes left. So they've got this new night view mode, which I don't know what this is going to look like, because to have decent quality at night, you've got to have a pretty decent lens, which lets in a lot of light, or you have to bump up the ISO, which introduces lots of noise. So looks like they've introduced something there. I don't know how that's going to work, but I'll be testing that out because my studio isn't very brightly lit. So I'd be interested to see what that looks like. I'm not sure that's relevant for me. I do use it on Wi-Fi, but I don't really care about that. So the gesture controller's got this UE virtual animation. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? They didn't explain what that is.
You'll be able to do things like this, and you'll disappear.
Virtual, I don't know. Fixed a lot of bugs. This preset position thing wasn't working properly for me, so they've done that. So they've got this in Ecamm whereby you can switch presets. So the preset is you can save the position of the camera. So you can have camera angle number 1. Let's say the overhead shot is here, and then you can move the camera with the PTZ controls and have another shot over here. So what it looks like they've done here is basically change the way or the speed of which it switches. Before there was just set to 1 speed, and that's pretty cool because if you really want it to whip across to another scene very quickly, especially if you've got 2 people and you're talking, switching back and forward, then that might be pretty cool. So they've added that, fixed some bugs. Tiny 2, so you got Tiny 2, what have they got here for you? Offers more adjustable settings. You can have multiple customized configurations and different presets. Oh, okay. This is cool. This is what they didn't have before. So you can now update and change the focus and the exposure, white balance and saturation, and then have that saved as a preset, because before it was a global setting. So whatever focus you had set, whatever now my camera's following me, whatever focus you had set and all your exposure settings would be global for that preset, for all presets. So now it looks like you can save it once. So that would be good. So if you, like in your studio where it's dark in one place and you might want to bump up the exposure if you start to stand up and do a green screen presentation, then that means you can change the exposure and focus. You can set it to manual focus, so it's razor sharp on you instead of having that focus hunting that you normally see. So that's a good update. I must try that out. Danny2, okay. What they got here? Me high frame recording. Meet SE. That's not for the Meet 2 though. Okay. That wouldn't apply to me. Tiny2 had presets mode for presets as detailed above. Tail Air supports presets business switching. ISO recording. So they got ISO recording in some of the Tail Air products. And what else? Night view mode. Okay, so I've got a Tail 2. I'm going to throw it outside at night and see what happens. And I think that's
basically...
basically...
have to wait till 10 o'clock, don't we?
Have to wait 10 o'clock now, yeah.
It's not dark enough.
Not at the moment. So yeah, night view mode, okay. And then auto speeds of zoom. So this is another one. So I have the Tail 2, which is the flagship one at the moment. And they had, whereby it has a 5x optical zoom, which is really cool. And then another 4x hybrid zoom, as they call it. So you have like a 12x zoom on there. So they've changed the way that the zooming works, especially when you're in that close-up mode, because before it was a little bit slow for some people. So they've obviously updated that and changed that. God, this is a big update. There's tons of updates here. Preset position switches, and then I think that's it. Well, that's enough. I think that's enough for updates on OBSBot. So a ton of updates. I know my OBSBot center updated before and the camera was going a bit crazy, so I need to make sure everything is updated accordingly. Right. Should we talk about Meld real quick and then on to what we're doing next week? So,
yep, let's do it.
Meld Studio. They don't have a ton of updates on the changelog. I'll go to that. So it's a little bit out of date at the moment, but recently they added the ability to do multi-angle streaming. So you can have a vertical stream and a horizontal stream being processed at the same time. So they're using 2 encoders in their software, and they're setting one for the vertical format, setting one for the widescreen format. So that means you can go live to multiple places at the same time. Nothing new with multiple destinations, but similar to OBS now, where you can actually go live in 2 different aspect ratios, which is really cool. So if you want to go on YouTube Shorts and then keep the sort of the widescreen for LinkedIn, you could do that. So there's many possibilities. It allows you to go to multiple destinations, but I think you can only, and I'll have to look into this. I don't know whether when we spoke to Joel, you could say go to YouTube with the vertical and the horizontal, and then have another multi-stream with that. That would be 4 encoders. That might be a lot, but I'll have to test that out. I'm not sure if you know what that how that worked.
Just to be clear, I think with this multi-canvas option, my understanding is that I can have a vertical design for my canvas and a completely different design for my landscape version.
Yeah.
So it's not just, actually, some people may imagine that it's just going to chop the center out of your landscape version to do a different tall version. But it's not doing that. It's giving you effectively 2 completely different streams running at the same time. So that's my understanding from Joel.
That's right.
The founder.
Yeah. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
So that's what. Yeah. So what it's doing is actually letting you have 2 streams running at the same time that are a different shape, but really it's 2 separate windows that you're running. Very powerful, very clever, very impressed with that.
Because you could technically then have a completely different layout in the vertical, different colors, different text, different layout, different color schemes, branding, compared to the widescreen version, right? Because it's a canvas, as you mentioned, and not necessarily just cropping and going out, which is very powerful. So yeah, and I think what we'll probably try and do in one of the shows in the future is do that and test it out. I just need to download the latest version, which they've added something else as well, which I'll talk about in a sec, and then just try and do that multi-canvas, because that would be really interesting. Probably have you help me get a design that looks decent instead of throwing something together like I normally do and it doesn't look great. So the other thing they've added is the fact now that one of the questions people were saying is, well, we still need chat natively coming into Meld. So now they've added chat as a chat window separate. I think it supports just the API connectivity that they're doing right now to YouTube and Twitch, I think. And I think just like every other tool, if you bring in an RTMP stream like Substack or Facebook groups, for example, then you're not going to get the chat brought in there. You would still need a third party similar to SocialStream Ninja. But the fact that they've integrated chat in there now is yet another step forward that Mel's making. And they are listening to the community and making these changes. What did Jill say? Every couple of weeks, right?
Every couple of weeks. So I'm going to maybe add something to what you just said.
Please.
But I'm sure that yesterday, when I was looking on YouTube, as I occasionally do, for something from last week or the week before, that there was somebody and they were dropping in their dashboard into Meld from a different product. So whether that was a Twitch studio or something like that, I didn't recognize it because it was not, I'm stuck on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook maybe, nothing else. So I've not actually done any streaming with these other products. But he was getting very excited that he was able to bring his dashboard into Meld from Twitch or whatever it was, with all of his comments and all his placeholders and ability to move it all around within Meld.
Ooh.
So clearly the reason they're not updating the changelog is they're too busy changing things. That's what it is. So.
Probably. I mean, it's a very dynamic organization and they are putting a lot of effort into updating their software on a regular basis based on the feedback. And if you're interested in Meld, then just go to Meld Studio online, download it. It's all free and it's for Windows and for Mac. And they have a great Discord community where you can just sort of bury yourself in there and start looking at all the new ideas and comments and things. And I think there's an upvote element of it as well. So ones that get the most votes will potentially be added into the software. But Joel's a great guy and go and support him. So that's all the updates I wanted to talk about, which is a lot. And that was an hour's worth. Unbelievably. But let's really touch quickly on what we're up to next week. If you wanna take that, Martin, I'll just rest.
Yeah, sure, I'll take that because you've been doing most of the talking. So next week, Neil is jumping on a plane from Portugal and flying over to sunny Edinburgh, where it has been sunny actually for the past several weeks, like really nice sunny, and it's not going to be next week. So Neil's bringing the bad weather with him. That's my excuse. But he's coming over and we're going to hook up with Michael Forrest from Squares TV as well, and another friend of ours who's coming over from the States, John, who's got lots of connections with Zoom. So we're going to have a bit of a sort of a geek fest at some point next week. And Neil and I still want to be doing a live at this time on Thursday next week. But my studio space here is rather small. I've got another one down the road at Portobello, also rather small. So I think the major problem really is actually getting us sitting side by side with a table or something similar to put everything on. However, my plan is to try and do that in my kitchen. So my kitchen is not particularly huge either, but at least it does have a dining table in it with a few chairs around it, so Neil and I could sit at the dining table, and potentially I've got a big screen behind me which I could use, or maybe go on green screen. So there's a couple of different options. So I think we'll be doing a sort of a studio build on Wednesday, and using minimal equipment but trying to demonstrate something a little bit different, and maybe something that looks a little bit like this here, where myself and Neil, so we scoot together a bit too close, are in the Leith office and having a chat together. So maybe it will look something like this. I mean, we will see next week, but that's kind of the plan. And for those of you who didn't notice throughout this show this week, yeah, I've been on green screen. That's not my normal office backdrop at all this week. So I know it looks like my office backdrop, but that's just a recording of my room without me in it. So I just thought I would jump between the two. So tune in this time next week for a totally refreshed office look. He says, moving back into the centre of the camera.
I didn't even realise that myself. So just, what are you on now? Are you on the green screen or are you on your main? I'm confused
I'm
now.
on green screen.
You're on green screen?
Oh. And I have been for the whole show.
I wouldn't even have noticed. I didn't even notice.
So, which is what you're meant to say, isn't it? Really.
Well, yeah.
I wouldn't have noticed.
If you spotted it in the comments, let us know. Just drop a comment, not here, but you can drop it after the show if you're watching after the fact. Did you spot through the show that Martin was at one point on green screen? Because I didn't. Now, this isn't green screen behind me, but I think next week I'm going to be on the green screen for the first time in 15 years. So this is going to be fun. Looking forward to it.
Good. Bring that picture with you.
Oh, please, guys. I will. I'll probably bring it. Right.
You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. Some housekeeping real quick. So we do still have our LinkedIn Live course is live and unleashed, and get it here. So I've dropped a link in the comments. So click on the QR code if you want to pick it up. We're making a couple of little tweaks and changes to it. More to come on that at some point, where we're giving you a few more options for different courses as well, which is pretty cool and exciting. Anything else you wanted to add to that before I move on to the last thing?
No, so we'll be looking for feedback for future courses, including perhaps one on green screen, and maybe some more Ecamm stuff, and maybe some on Meld Studio. I don't know.
Yes.
But there's plenty to look at, and Streamer Live is the other thing as well. We'll be doing some more stuff on Streamer Live in June the 10th-ish.
11th.
I think.
11th, I think.
11th.
Something like that.
June
Yeah.
11th.
So we'll keep you posted. We'll pop it on the channels and the various socials. All right. Well, this has been fun.
Next week.
Yeah, I will see you next week from, and it will be Study Edinburgh, and we won't be on green screen in 2 parts of the world. So it'll be interesting. So it's goodbye from me in Portugal.
And cheerio from Edinburgh.
Take care.